Hi everyone, and welcome to my Heroes of Might and Magic 3 complete video. I'm making this video just to give an introduction to the series for those who aren't familiar with it. Also for those who may not have played a turn-based strategy game before, to give you an idea of what the gameplay is like and specifically how this title plays. So let's go into new game. The game does have basically three modes. You can do a single scenario, which is just kind of like a skirmish map. You can do multiplayer. It features hot seat multiplayer, so playing on the same computer. It also features TCP/IP, and I think all the rest of these modes are outdated. For those wondering, I'm actually playing the GOG.com version, the goodoldgames.com version, so with an HD mod. You'll notice this border around here, that's not normally there. The game normally runs in this resolution that just, doesn't have this kind of grayish outside. But for the purposes of recording this video, I'm doing this at 1280 by 720. If you do it much larger, like a 1080p resolution, it just gets too small to see everything, and that's why. So that's the version of the game that I'm playing right now. There's also campaign mode, 3 different campaigns. I believe Restoration of Arathia was the first one. Shadow of Death? No, Armageddon's Blade was next, and then I believe Shadow of Death. Bunch of different campaigns under each one, even ones that you have to unlock later. For now, though, we're just going to start with a single scenario and just give you an idea of what the game is like. Let's do... Let's do Brave New World. It's a pretty standard map. You'll notice they have different map sizes, large, medium, small. They also have different victory and loss conditions. Generally, like for Brave New World, the victory condition is to defeat all enemies, the loss condition is to lose all your towns and heroes. I'm going to play it. They say the map is hard. I don't know, it's not that bad. And I'm going to play it just on the medium difficulty. If I go to advanced options, this is my starting options. I'm going to change my name. And I think I'm going to play Tower. There's a bunch of different races. I believe there's 9 races in total. They all have their different strengths and weaknesses. And of course, different units you can hire and whatnot. Hero, that's kind of like your main character, or at least your first character who leads an army and, has spells and abilities and things that they use in battle to try and, turn the battle in favor for, your units so that you can expand across the map. Let's do someone that's pretty basic. I'm right-clicking just to see what their specialty is on each of these different heroes. Armor, golems, genies, gargoyles. I can't figure out what I want, so I'll just do random. Starting bonus, I want to do artifacts. You can do also gold and a resource. I'm going to do artifacts just to give you an idea of what how artifacts work and equipment on your hero. So a lot of this may not be making sense quite yet, but let's get into a game. I'll explain it as we go. This is just some text. Flavor text essentially for the map. I'll just go ahead and hit OK. This is the world map right here in the center. That is where my hero is, and this is my starting town. All these different little spots are just locations my hero can visit each turn. Some of them are just one-time visits, so resources like gold, sulfur, wood, mercury, etc. Others, like this shipyard down here, can actually be captured, and they're a building that you control, and then I can build ships from. For now, though, let's double-click on our town icon on the right there. It'll take us into our town. We can mouse over all the different buildings that we have, a tavern, a fort, and they'll provide different bonuses. For example, a tavern, I can recruit new heroes. Don't have a lot. I can recruit gremlins. It's just like my basic unit and whatnot. Let's go to the village hall, though. This is where I build new buildings and kind of increase of what my town is capable of doing. So I'll click on that. Anything in green is something that I can build now, and I can right-click on them, and it'll tell me what it does. I can build a parapet that'll let me recruit a different type of unit, stone gargoyles, stone gargoyles, and it shows the resource cost as well. The ones that are gold are ones that I already have, so I already have a tavern and I can't upgrade it or anything like that, so it's just, that's nothing I can do there. These other ones that are red are obviously just ones that I can't build now for whatever reason, and if you right click on it, it'll tell you why. For example, for here I need a Mage Guild level 1 to build a Wall of Knowledge. You'll notice here this says upgraded workshop. I do already have a workshop. What this will do is it will let me upgrade my workshop to, instead of having gremlins, which I can recruit now, it will let me change them into master gremlins. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that and show you what those are like. So I can double click on them and it shows their stats. Attack, defense. They're very, very basic, very slow, do hardly any damage, have hardly any health. I upgrade them. Their stats get a little bit better. The main difference though here is you can notice that they now have a stat called shots. The upgrade actually turned this into a ranged unit as to a melee unit, which is why I do like doing that upgrade fairly early on. So now I'm going to take my hero, and these are my hero's starting units, into the town. I'm also going to upgrade them and combine those two armies. What I will also do is I believe I'm going to go to my tavern. Ooh, I actually really like this guy. What's her specialty? Her specialty is golems. That's really bad, in my opinion. I mean, I'm no expert at this game. I played it a lot, but I don't play like competitively or anything. But I just don't care for the golems very much. They have good attack and defense, barely any damage, but they have good health, so they're good at getting in the way of things. But they don't really do much damage, so I don't care for them a whole lot. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to recruit Solomir for 2,500 gold. He comes with his own units that I will also upgrade into Master Gremlins. I am actually going to treat him as my main hero, so I'm going to move almost all of my armies over to him. You do have to keep one unit with your army at all times. And I will use him as my main hero. Now, what I'm actually going to do is take her out first. Because if you go to her inventory screen, this tells you a bit about your hero. Shows you what artifacts they have, their basic stats. So she has 3 attack, 1 defense, 2 spell power, and 2 knowledge. Knowledge is basically how many spell points you have. Spell power is how much damage or how long your spells last. And then attack and defense, whatever attack and defense stats your hero has, get directly translated to your units here in these parenthetical attack and defense skill values. So she's adding 3 attack and 1 defense to every unit in her army. And then she has these secondary skills. Basic sorcery, she deals an additional 5% damage with her spells in combat, and mysticism, which allows her to regenerate spell points every day. Now the reason I took her out of the town is that I wanted to also take this guy out, and what I'm going to do is trade outside of town so that I can give this artifact, which increases her attack skill by 2, I'm going to give it to my main hero so that he now also, gets the attack bonus instead of her, since I'm going to be using him for all of my combat. I do still have this hero out here though, so I don't want her to be useless, so what I'm going to do is go around and just grab these little resource piles. You'll notice as I mouse over different things, my cursor changes. So this, if I click now with the little castle icon, that'll just take me back into town. If I, as I click on a unit, you'll notice there's a little horse that just means moving normally. If the horse goes up on its hind legs, it just means it's a special place, so that's kind of how you can identify where there's a place worth visiting or not. On the bottom here, you'll notice those are all my resources, in case you didn't already see that. So, right now I have 7 sulfur. If I go visit this pile, I'll gain 3. Sulfur isn't particularly useful for tower, it's mostly useful for other races, but you do also need it for things like your mages guilds and whatnot. And I'll continue, and if you watch this green bar next to her portrait on the left, that's her movement points for this turn. So as I move her, her movement points go down, and I can just slowly gather up all these different little resources. And you'll notice now her path has turned red. That means that she won't be able to get there this turn, but instead will be able to get there next turn. That's also why there's a little 2 next to the horse on his hind legs. It just means it'll take 2 turns for her to get there. And it doesn't look like I can get there either. You notice she actually does move farther on if she sticks to the road. For now, I have plenty of wood. I think I'll move her toward that crystal. Now this is something I do want to prioritize. This is an ore pit. You'll notice hidden under here there's actually a little gray flag, kind of like on this shipyard, and I was saying I can actually capture this location, and what it'll do is it'll provide me with 2 ore every day. So it's a way of constantly generating resources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move him over here, and it looks like he can get there in 1 turn. And it says, a group of skeleton warriors with a desire for greater glory wish to join you. Do you accept? Basically, my army was strong enough that it scared the crap out of them, and now they want to be friends. Since I would want to show you the combat, I'm just going to hit no. And it says, the skeleton warriors, awed by the power of your forces, begin to scatter. Do you wish to pursue and engage them? Yes. So here's the combat screen. Combat is turn-based, just like the game, and basically the faster the unit, the sooner it gets to move in a turn. So my gargoyles are the fastest unit. You can see the speed right there is 6, while these skeleton warriors have a speed of 5. They're the fastest unit on the field, so I actually get to move first. What I really want to do, since I know these skeleton warriors have no ranged attack, I'm going to wait until my gremlins over here have been able to throw a couple ranged attacks their way to soften them up. So I'm going to move him up here to kind of protect those gremlins. Now you'll notice as I mouse over these skeleton warriors, the cursor turns into an arrow. That just means you're going to do a ranged attack. If I mouse over these guys farther away, it turns into a broken arrow, meaning they're out of range, and your ranged attack will only do half damage. So since he moved into range, I'm going to attack him. It says I have 8 shots left on my gremlins. It'll do between 84 and 168 damage. Basically, it'll just one-shot them. Now you see why I upgraded them so quickly. I'm going to go ahead and... What you can actually do, there's 2 options if you don't want to move your character. You can either wait, which will postpone your character's action until later in the same turn, or you can defend, which will end that character's turn, but also give them a defensive bonus. So you'll notice if I wait, for example, I can now attack again this skeleton warrior group that has moved in range. And I will also wait with him. I hit wait, but he's the next one to go in line of those who waited, so you can see here it says the stone golems pause and wait for a better time to act. I'm going to go ahead and hit defend. So now he was able to move up because that skeleton warrior also waited, and this guy waited as well. So now I'm going to defend with him as well. You may wonder, why don't I attack him? The reason being is that this game is very much about taking as few losses as possible. A few losses early on can impact what fights you can take later on. And if you take too many losses early on, you can get into the situation where you can't expand fast enough, and you just fall behind incredibly more than you'd think just from taking a few losses early game. We can go ahead and wait, and he's going to move up. Oh, he actually was able to get in range of my stone gargoyles and kill one. It's not a huge deal. 1 stone gargoyle isn't going to make much of a difference, but I probably could have moved him away so that didn't happen. And so yeah, he was guarding this ore pit. I killed him, and now I'm able to take over the ore pit, and it gives me 2 ore per day. I still have a little bit of movement left. I'm going to leave these other resources that don't appear to be guarded for my alternate hero, since she doesn't have any army, and I'm going to use my main hero to go do other things that require combat, essentially. And I've moved both of my heroes. They don't have any green left. My town has an X next to it indicating I've already built in that town, so I'm going to go ahead and click this button and end my turn. And then all the different AI computer opponents get to take their turn. And now it's my turn again, day 2, or turn 2 essentially. So I'm going to do a similar sort of thing. I'm going to have her go collect all these different resources. She wasn't able to get to these piles. This, what is it, desert? Yeah. It's actually pretty hard to move on. It uses up a lot of movement points. Before I move him over here, I wonder if there's anything I can build in here that I would want him to stop in town for while he's on his way. I'm looking, and I think I might actually build a Mage's Guild. Mage's Guild gives your heroes access to different spells to be able to use in combat. You can click on it, and I have a level 1 Mage's Guild, which means I have access to all the level 1 spells. Slow, Haste, Cure, Stone Skin, and Shield. Basically just a bunch of different buffing spells. And I am actually going to stop my hero in here. And he learns all the spells. You don't even have to click on the Mage's Guild. Just any visiting hero will learn the spells of that Mage's Guild, provided they have the capability to do so. Level 4 and level 5 spells do require a particular secondary skill. Oh, actually level 3 spells do as well, which is Wisdom. So it allows your hero to learn 3rd level spells, and then as you get that, as you increase levels, you can increase your Wisdom, which will let you get higher level spells essentially. Okay, now I'm going to move him over here. There's a sawmill. This is basically like the ore pit, but gives me wood instead. So I'm going to lots of gnolls. I believe that is a fight I can take. If I have one criticism of Heroes of Might Magic 3, it's that it does not give you a good indication as to whether or not, as to how difficult a fight will be for you. Now I know, having played this game a lot, that my Master Gremlins, are pretty good, and my, I don't really care for these other guys, but my Master Gremlins are amazing. And I know that just with those guys, I should be able to take on these gnolls, because I know that gnolls are a level 1 unit, and that lots only means, in between like 25 and 50. If you're new to the game, that's a big knowledge barrier, knowing whether or not you can kill these gnolls. And so if you're just starting out on the game, what I would recommend is, maybe in another monitor, or just, via Alt-Tab, have the manual open. And what you can do is you can compare a unit's level. So if I look in my town, I can look at all of my different units that eventually will be available to me as the tower race. I have Master Gremlins now, and if you just count from left to right, top to bottom, 1st level, 2nd level, 3rd level, 4th level, 5th, 6th, and 7th, it'll give you a general idea of that unit's power in relation to other units. So for example, I know that gnolls are the level 1 unit of a different race, and that I have more of my level 1 unit than they have of theirs, so the fight is in my favor. So if you're just starting off, basically what you want to do is just look at the unit, see what level that unit is, compare it to the levels of the units that are in your army, and decide from that whether or not you think you can take the fight. Now, not all level 1 units are the same, not all level 5 units are the same, but it's still a good way to judge just the relative power of a unit you're unfamiliar with. So I'm going to go ahead and start this fight. What I'm actually going to do, since this is a unit just in 1 stack, I'm going to cast a spell on it. Now the reason I love this guy is that he actually starts with Chain Lightning, which is a level 4 spell. And early on, having Chain Lightning means you can do a lot of damage to enemy units just with a single spell. Now, it's not ideal in this situation because it's only 1 unit, and Chain Lightning is better if they're spread out, because you can do the same amount of, or little bits of damage to a lot of split up units. What I am going to do here, though, is I'm actually going to slow him, which will reduce his speed, allowing me to attack more with my gremlins before he actually reaches me. So I'm going to move all these guys into position to defend my gremlins, and you'll notice he actually moves 1 hex slower than he otherwise would have. So we're just gonna keep waiting. And now he's in range, so it'll even do more damage, and just with a single slow spell I was able to avoid any casualties at all. And I'll go ahead and take this sawmill for myself, get 2 wood per day. And I think I will go and try and get this scholar. This is another thing that can be somewhat difficult about knowing what's worth going to and what's not. For example, you may have noticed I passed up this Idol of Fortune. All it does is increases morale of your units, which I didn't feel was worth stopping at. Morale, if you look here, this shows that I have neutral morale on my units, but what it says is that if you have good morale, you can get extra attacks. If you have bad morale, your units will actually lose their movement, like lose their ability to attack at all. Luck just depends on whether or not your units get to deal double damage. There's a lot of complex systems in this game. I'm not going to go over all of them, but anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so you don't know exactly which ones are necessarily worth visiting and which ones aren't. But for now, I'm going to go to the Scholar. Usually what he'll do is he'll give me... Okay, so he teaches me a spell. Protection from Fire. Not the most useful spell, but the reason I got it on my main character is because I knew that that would most likely add something to my main character. And if I had gotten this with my alternate character, she would have learned a spell that she probably would never use in combat. Again, a lot of these small resource piles I'm just going to leave for her once she comes back this other way. And I'm going to make my way to this witch's hut. And I'll go ahead and end my turn again. Okay, let's collect these piles with her. Just to show you, I'll stop at the... Oh, the Idol of Fortune, that's right, it actually changes your luck, not your morale. So her one Master Gremlin now has a better chance of dealing double damage than he did before. Congratulations. Okay, let's move him down to this Witch's Hut. Witch's Hut, what it'll do is, these are all secondary skills. You can get up to 8 secondary skills. It'll teach you one at random. Now, since it's random and you can't actually get rid of them, it is a bit of a risk visiting a Witch's Hut. And you can't, at least in the base game, you can't deny... Like, if once you visited it, it'll just give you the skill. So I'm going to go ahead and go here. Basic navigation. Normally, I don't care for that, but it looks like this map has quite a bit of water, so having navigation might be useful. It increases my movement points at sea by 50%. Next, I will continue on down. I'm actually going to go visit this Learning Stone. What it did is it gave me 1,000 experience, which leveled up my wizard. He's a level 2 wizard. He now has 1 extra spell power, and I can choose between 1 of 2 other secondary skills. I can either get Advanced Wisdom, which allows my hero to learn the 4th level spells, or just take basic water magic. Since he is a caster, I do think I'm going to take the water magic. One of the interesting things about water magic, and you can see if you look at your spell book, what spells are in what category. So for example, you'll notice this has kind of 2 corners that are decorated under Cure. That's because Cure is a water magic spell. You can even actually sort them by water, fire, earth, and air spells, or just look at them all. And since I have the 2 corners, that means I have basic Cure magic. Some of these spells, like Slow or Haste or Stone Skin, when you get to expert level, it'll actually cast them on all of the enemy units or all of the friendly units, depending on if it's a friendly buffing spell or an enemy debuffing spell. So that's kind of why I like the actual magics, just because you can buff or debuff all of your units or all of their units at once. It's really handy. Let's check out this little Seer's Hut. It says, hello there, coming out of the cold. Right now I'm working on some formulas. I need crystal dragons. He says, I would be willing to part with a potion of mine that increases your attack by 10 if you bring me 2 crystal dragons. It's actually only asking me for 1. But that's just a little quest you can do. If I managed to find a way to recruit crystal dragons. Crystal dragons are very difficult units to kill, and you most likely will have to defeat them before you can recruit them, so that's going to be kind of a more endgame goal quest that I can do. Looks like she still has a little bit of movement, but she actually can't. I want her to go there, but it's enough movement to move her here, but not there, so I'm just gonna leave her there. Anyway, let's go back into town. I think I will build a town hall. I'm worried about my money getting too low, and this will... Right now I have a village hall, which gives me 500 gold per day. If I do this, it'll double that to 1,000, so... It does cost gold to do that, but after 5 turns, it's essentially recouped its cost, since it costs 2,500, but it increases my income by 500 gold per day. So yeah, this is kind of how the game goes on. Obviously it gets much more complex once you start meeting other players, once you start sieging their towns, and then of course there's all sorts of other, different buildings and units to fight. I'm just going to probably do another couple more turns to see if there's anything I've forgotten or left out. Maybe I'll actually take her on the water to go explore. And you may think, well, my other guy has navigation, why don't I take him? And that's just because I kind of want to finish exploring everything I have here on land, and sometimes being able to explore is impeded by monsters, and so I'll have to clear them out and be able to fully explore. So I went to a workshop. This is just a random workshop that'll actually give me free gremlins on the map. They're unupgraded, unfortunately. If I did want to, I could go all the way back and upgrade them and then come all the way back down, but since that would take essentially 2 turns worth of movement, I'm not going to bother with that at the moment. Let's go take out these guys. Now, Cerebri are very fast, as you can see. They get to move all of their guys before I get to move any of mine. The last one decided to wait for some reason. I'm not quite sure why. This is a great example, though, of why I love starting with Chain Lightning. It's still just a basic spell, but... And I have to be careful, because it may actually arc onto my own guys. But I think I want to clear out the ones closest to my gremlins first, so I'm going to cast it on him. Hey, there we go. It actually cleared out 2 stacks and damaged 2 others. Now, I'm not really worried if these guys die. I kind of feel like I got them for free, so not a huge deal. Looks like I'm just comparing the health left on these stacks. It just tells you how much health is left, because they're both 2 units, but this one, the top unit, has 13 health left. This one has 7, so this one essentially the stack has more health. So I'm going to attack him just to maximize my damage potential. Now these Cerebri, they have this thing where they have a 3-headed attack. So what I want to do is I want to move my guys up here, but I'm worried that he's going to get a 3-headed attack in on both of them, so I'm only going to move this guy this far. And it turns out he didn't get to move anyways, so there's no good way of doing this. Yeah, he has 8 speed. I want to completely protect my gremlins, and since this creature is actually 2 hexes wide, if I move my golems here, he won't be able to squeeze into this little 1 hex space. It does mean that he'll be able to 3-headed attack both of these units, but since they have fairly decent defensive stats, I'm okay with that. And it turns out they went for my gremlins anyways, so... I think I'll move him down here. I killed one of the Cerebrus, and he didn't actually... he only did 5 damage to that, so... And we use these other guys to just kind of beat up the rest. So I only lost 3 of my normal gremlins, killed 13 Cerebri, got some experience, and just unlocked this little section of the map. Mostly I wanted to go to this School of War. It says, for fee 1,000 gold, you can teach you the choice of a new attack or defense skill. Since I don't have any defense right now, I think I'm going to take that. And let's see, where else is there to go? I think I will continue on this way. So yeah, and you'll notice, I mean, this is a large map. This is an 8-player map right now, so my guess is every player, probably in sort of a hexagonal shape like this, has a starting island of their own. There are also 2-layer maps on some of these maps, so there is an underground on some of them. And this isn't even actually the largest map setting. There is an extra large beyond that, and you can even do an extra large that has 2 layers. So even with 8 players, if you do a map of that size, things don't really get very crowded. You can have plenty of time to expand. I'm trying to think if there's any other qualms or issues that I have with this game. One thing I will say is that I'm showing you the base game, and I've had people ask me before, because this is Heroes of Might Magic 3. There's also Heroes of Might Magic 5, which is very well regarded by a lot of the fans, and people often ask, well, why do you prefer 3 over 5? And my answer generally is that I love both games. There are actually things that I like better in Heroes of Might Magic 5. For example, when you go into combat in Heroes of Might Magic 3, there's no indication of which unit moves next. And that's unfortunate, but that's just part of the game, and I do like that better about Heroes of Might Magic 5. The main reason, however, that I like Heroes of Might Magic 3 better is that there is an unofficial expansion for the game called Wake of the Gods. Now, the reason I'm not playing that expansion now is just because I wanted to give you an idea of the basic game. If I had thrown in all of the Wake of the Gods expansion content, it would have just been a little too overwhelming, I think, for a new person to really follow and understand. What it does, though, is it does all sorts of things. It adds new units, it adds new building types of these, it adds... there's a bunch of different rule changes that you can turn on or off. It's very, very customizable. Some of the ones that I know my friends and I like to play with is that our creatures cost half of what they normally do on the 7th day, which that's actually, I should explain that. You'll notice right now I have no Master Gremlins available. Day 1 of week 2, so basically once you start the new week, I'll have 17 more Master Gremlins. It'll show you that's their weekly growth. And one of the options on that mod is that on day 7 they just cost half. So if you want to wait until the end of the week, you can get a discount on your creatures. There's other things like heroes have double movement. One of the other big things is that your units themselves, so not just your heroes, but your units, will gain experience. And they'll gain new abilities, they'll gain, you know, extra stats and whatnot. And some of them are actually really fun. And it just adds so much to the game that I really do believe that Heroes 3 with the Wake of the Gods expansion is the best way to experience the Heroes of Might and Magic franchise. I would not recommend, however, installing that expansion until you have a good grasp of the base game. So, you know, if you're interested after all of this, go buy Heroes of Might Magic 3 off of GOG.com, install it, play a few maps, get familiar with, you know, at least a couple of races and, you know, some of the more advanced concepts of the game, like sieging and and, you know, whatnot, that I haven't quite shown in this video. And then if you still want more, essentially, if you want more of that same content, go download and install the Wake of the Gods expansion. And go look through all of the different options that it has available. Some of the options may not make sense to you if you still don't have a thorough understanding of the game. Like, there's an option, for example, to change the ballistics skill. Well, if you have no idea what the ballistics skill does to begin with, you have no idea whether or not you want to change it. So get as good of an understanding of the game as you can, and then decide if you want more of that, and then go download the Wake of the Gods expansion. I'll put a link in the video below. And yeah, that's pretty much how this game plays. It is a lot of fun with friends. However, since it is a turn-based game and there's no option for simultaneous turns, where, you know, you would both take your turns at the same time, the games can drag on. So on a large map like this, even with 2 players, you'll probably be expecting like a 6 to 8 hour game. Now that's great if you have like a roommate that, you know, you can just pick up and put down the game an hour at a time, or if you just have, this big, massive, LAN party, or, you're going to go hang out with a friend, you just want to enjoy a good turn-based strategy game, and have, 6 to 8 hours to burn some evenings on Friday night because you've got nothing better to do, then this is a great option. I've played this game ever since it came out. I've even played its predecessors, and it's a franchise that I really love, and I think it's an incredibly tactically sound, enjoyable game. It's got a great aesthetic to it that I feel has aged well over the years. And yeah, I think you guys should go check it out.